Do you like adversity? Okay, I know that was a silly question. Nobody does. We all would love to avoid it. As a matter of fact, we try to avoid it like the plague. Adversity is tough. It's hard. It's difficult. We can hardly see sometimes in the middle of it any kind of benefit. That's why we try to avoid it. Think about how much we try to make our lives easier, right? Isn't that the whole goal? Convenience, making things easier on us. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the bottom line is that a part of the deal here on planet Earth is adversity, challenges, roadblocks, mountains, and yes, even beasts. Those things that have us down, those things that challenge us, that shake us to our core and really cause us to dig down deep and find that reserve of courage in us, that strength, the tenacity, sometimes just even character that's been buried that we didn't even know was in there. And so I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you that you should fall in love with adversity, but that's where we are forged. We're forged in the fire. That's how diamonds come to be, right? They're pressed and squeezed and compressed. And I mean, if you were a little diamond, it'd be painful. And then they end up something beautiful. It's the same thing with us. So my niece Shawnee, she lost Jamie, my daughter, who was her closest cousin. They were only 3 months apart, and they were just really first best friends. And she lost Jamie just a month after she lost her little brother. Just, I mean, devastating period of her life. And I was interviewing her for my book, Burn the Map. I hope you're going to get a copy of that. And she told me a lot of really cool things that are in the book that you're really going to be inspired by. But one of the things that she said really impacted me. She said she wished that Shane could see this version of herself, this person that she is now. She just is kind of sad that he doesn't get to know this version of herself. And I told her what I'm telling you, what I've had to tell myself. You might not be that version of yourself had you not gone through the fire. And I know you might be thinking, well, is that even worth it? I remember, when Jamie was in her addiction, I didn't care anything about learning a dang thing. I just wanted it to stop. I wanted a moment of peace. I wanted to find happiness again. I wanted my daughter back. I mean, if I could have had all of that, who cares? I don't need any more character. I'm already a character, right? I mean, that, and there were even times when after she was murdered when I thought, wow, is any of this worth it? Well, of course, we all wish we could rewind the clock on certain things and not have to experience a lot of situations we have, especially when the heart is involved. But this is life. Life does not come with guarantees. In fact, there is a guarantee that it's going to be tough, that you will have challenges, that you will have roadblocks, that you will have these things that feel like they're never going to end, and these things that don't feel like there's any value in them. But there's always value. It's in the hardship is where your strength comes from. It truly is. And you know what? Like Shawnee, you might not be the version of yourself that you are now had you not gone through. And you might be sitting here saying, well, I don't know because I haven't changed for the better. Well, then maybe that's time for you to think about that. Step back and say, okay, what can I learn? What can I get from this? Don't allow these difficult circumstances you go through to be just that, only pain with no purpose. Don't waste that pain. Don't waste everything that you put into this difficult journey. That would really be another tragedy if you did that. So think about the kind of people that you become inspired by. They probably don't have the same types of stories, probably not even a story like yours or a hardship like yours, but they're always people who've been through the fire. Those are the people that inspire us. So I know a lot of people are kind of fascinated by royalty or so-called celebrity. I say so-called because sometimes I think the whole celebrity thing is a little ridiculous. But anyway, we might be fascinated. We might be interested. It might seem like, wow, we might even think, be a little jealous. Okay, those might be lives that we would like to try out. But they're not the stories that inspire us, unless they happen to also have a forged in the fire story. But we get inspired by people like Malala Yousafzai. She's a girl who went against the Taliban. Okay, this is some serious stuff, my friends. Against the Taliban at the age of 15, you know what for? The right to go to school. Something that we completely take for granted. Her story is incredibly inspiring. The courage that it took is beyond what most of us could even imagine. How about Rosa Parks? Right? This was during segregation, and she didn't sit at the back of the bus. She sat up front, and somebody wanted her to move, and she just quietly refused to budge. Man, the courage, tenacity that it took. Even somebody like Amelia Earhart. So we all know her story of her really her legacy of being a woman pilot, and definitely at a time when it was completely dominated by men. So it's a different kind of courage than Rosa Parks or Malala, but it's courage just the same. And none of these women had an easy path. They all refused to succumb to fear. That's what's so inspiring. It's those people that are down on the mat, like you, those people that are in the fire and keep walking through. It's the people who come out of that fire and refuse to continue to smell like smoke. Those are the people that inspire us. And so your story is no different. Okay. So maybe your story hasn't made headlines, but that doesn't mean it isn't just as important, certainly to at least one other person. I'm sure to far more than just one person. But we're never going to find out. We're never going to know if you just are trying to get through, right? You've buried your head in the sand or you're fighting against the current. You don't want to just say, okay, this is happening. So what can I get from it? What can I learn from it? I mean, let's think about even faith. So a lot of times I think what happens to people when they're really going through something difficult is sometimes they lose their faith, or they don't want to find it if they never really had it because they think, really, what kind of God would allow this to happen? Well, I think first of all, for me, I've had to really think about the fact that it's not all just about what God is doing or not doing. It is that we have free will. We were given free will, which means there are evil people in this world. There is an evil force, these beasts that attach themselves to us and wrestle us down to the mat. They don't just, come out of thin air. They're the opposite of God. It is that force that's fighting against everything that is good. And it's part of what we have to go through. So we have this free will, and then we've got this, these beasts, this evil that is fighting against us. Sometimes it's our own human nature that we don't want to change. We don't want to have to succumb to authority. Sometimes we don't like being told what to do. Listen, I'm the kind of person that doesn't really like being told what to do. That's why I don't like a lot of government involvement. I like to be able to, live my life because I know that I'm a law-abiding citizen and I do the right thing. And so I don't need to be told a bunch of stuff, and I don't need 5,000 regulations and laws for everything. But not a lot of people are like that. And so it's kind of like that with faith, right? With faith, we have to really, really submit to authority. Boy, I mean, you think submitting to, like the cop that might pull you over for a speeding ticket, that's nothing compared to submitting to the authority of God and really living our lives in that way. So when these difficult things happen, right? I'm sure there are people who've looked at my life and thought, Okay, I don't want what she has. So she has faith, don't need any part of that. But for me, it's really caused me to hang on to my faith. And truthfully, I think that at times it was because I didn't know what else to do. I mean, I was desperate. There were no worldly answers. And I don't know that I have, a ton of godly answers either. But listen, I'm not taking a chance. I would much rather have the most powerful force in the universe at my back than trying to go this alone. So my point is that it is in these fire moments, the earth shifting beneath your feet times when it's a great opportunity to find faith. I know that has even happened with my son Sean, and he's trying to make it through this, really serious kind of health scare and situation. He's not quite, I mean, I think we're over the super scary part, but he's still not quite moving around yet, after a few weeks. So we will get him back on a podcast soon, and I'm going to ask him about that. Let's talk about that. How he really kind of ignited his faith during the difficult times, after Jamie, for sure, after Jamie's death. And then I'll ask him. I haven't talked to him about it that much, but I'll ask him about his faith during this really tough time. So that's the bottom line, is that we need to struggle. And it reminds me of, we lived on Key Biscayne in Florida, this island off the bay there in Miami, or off of Miami. And so we were able to watch these turtles one night. They hatch and make their way to the ocean. And of course, we wanted to help them. But the guides told us, no, you can't do that. They need that struggle. They need to see the moonlight and the reflection off of the water and find their way over the sand and with predators nearby. That was our part in it, right? Keep the predators away and make their way to the ocean over that sand, over that difficulty. And that journey helps to imprint in them where they came from so they can find their way back when it's time for nesting. Pretty cool, huh? Well, one of the reasons that Rich and I were kind of intent on wanting to help them is that several years prior, we were in Mexico at this resort, and same thing. Turtles were hatched. Only we were not just encouraged, we were told, go for it. Pick them up and toss them into the ocean. Oh my gosh. I mean, it really makes me sick to think that we thought we were helping them and we were harming them. They needed that adversity. But isn't that what we do? We do that so often in our own lives. We try to avoid anything that can be difficult, don't want to have to go through it. And importantly, we do that in other people's lives. We try to prevent them from making their way across the sand. We try to prevent them from the imprinting they need. We try to help them avoid pain and suffering and hardship. And most of the time, like, when we thought we were doing good, tossing those turtles in the ocean in Mexico, it's with good intentions. But we have to step back and really start thinking about this. I really want you to think about this. The times that you've learned the most, that you've grown the most, that have made you just dig down and find that fortitude, they were always in the tough times, right? Of course, you don't have to do that in the easy times. So when we try to throw our loved ones over the sand and into the ocean, we are preventing them from learning those same lessons that have been valuable to you. So we have to quit thinking of this for ourselves and for others, that adversity is this terrible, terrible thing to be avoided, right? That it's like kryptonite. It's going to suck your energy and take you down. It is exactly the opposite. Adversity is your superpower. And how do we get it? We get it when we are forged in the fire.